So today we will discuss muscle tissue. Okay. So you have already read the muscle contraction in physiology, different classification of muscles. Also have read the histology. Okay. So today we will discuss all these topics together. So first muscle. These are the properties of the muscle tissue. Property of contractility is well developed in the muscle tissue and it consists of myocytes. Myocytes are the muscle fibers. These are the cells of the muscular tissue and the muscles are derived from the mesoderm. Okay. And in muscles, these terms are used: sarcolemma, sarcoplasm, sarcoplasmic reticulum, and sarcosome. Sarcolemma is the plasma membrane of the muscle. Sarcoplasm is the cytoplasm of the muscle. Okay. Sarcos means flesh and plasma means thing in the Greek. Okay. So fleshy thing. Muscle is the fleshy thing. So sarcoplasmic reticulum, it is the endoplasmic reticulum of the muscle tissue and sarcosome is the mitochondria of the muscle tissue. Okay, so these terms are used only in the muscle. Histologically, the muscles are classified into these three groups: skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle and smooth muscle. Okay, this classification important for your histology and the viva. Okay. And physiologically, muscles are classified as voluntary muscle and involuntary muscles according to the function of the muscle. So, voluntary muscles are skeletal muscles and they are under control of our will. And involuntary muscles, examples are the cardiac muscle and smooth muscles, and they are not under our control of. Next. So we'll discuss the three muscles in details. First skeletal muscle, then cardiac muscle and then smooth muscle. Okay. So first skeletal muscle. It is also called striated muscles because it has striations, alternative dark and light bands. Okay. And voluntary muscle because it is under control of our will. And because of skeletal attachment, it is responsible for locomotion. These are the visceral, and there are also so skeletal muscles are mainly responsible for locomotion. And some viscera, you also get the striated muscles, and these visceral striated muscles, they are microscopically identical to the skeletal muscles and they are confined to the viscera such as tongue, pharynx, peripheral part of the diaphragm and upper two-thirds of the esophagus. Okay, and they are involved in speech, breathing, swallowing and coughing. Okay, they are partially controlled by our will. Next. So this is histology of the skeletal muscle. What are the identification feature? Skeletal muscle fiber, it is a multinucleated syncytium of varied length. So this is one fiber. You can see multiple nucleus are present. They are flattened nucleus and peripherally placed. And alternate dark and light bands are seen in the muscle fiber. Okay. So each muscle fiber is elongated, unbranched cell. This unbranched is very important. Skeletal muscle, it is unbranched. In cardiac muscle, you will get branching. And nuclei are flattened and located in the periphery of the cell just beneath the sarcolemma. Since location of the nucleus is also important. In skeletal muscle, it is located peripherally placed flat nuclei. And other two varieties, cardiac muscle and smooth muscle, they have centrally placed nuclei. Okay. Next. So this is histological picture of the skeletal muscle. See, these are the parallelly placed muscle fibers and these violet dots, they are peripherally placed flattened nuclei. Okay. And these muscle fibers are grouped together to form the muscle fascicle. Okay, and each of the muscle fiber is covered by connective tissue covering, and this fascicle is also covered by connective tissue covering. Each muscle fiber is covered by endomysium, and this muscle fascicle is covered by this connective tissue covering. This is known as perimysium, and whole of the muscle is covered by the epimysium. And this is enlarged view. So here you can see the nuclei, peripherally placed nuclei of the elongated muscle fiber. This is a further enlarged view, 1000x, this is 400x, 100x. Generally in low power view you will see in our histology 100x view. Okay, so this is 1000x oil immersion view. So these are the peripherally placed nucleus, and striations are clearly visible here. Alternate dark and light bands you can see here. Okay, and no branching of the muscle fiber is occurring. So the fibers show transverse striations of alternate dark and light bands. Dark bands are called anisotropic band or A band, and light bands are called isotropic band or I band. Okay, because of their power to refract the light in polarized light microscopy. That's why the names are given. And connective tissue of the skeletal muscle are of three types: endomysium, perimysium, and epimysium. Endomysium is covering of each muscle fiber layer of formed by layer of reticular fibers. See, these are one muscle fiber, single muscle fibers, they are lying parallelly. So each of the muscle fiber is covered by the endomysium. Next, the muscle fascicle is covered by the perimysium. Perimysium covers a bundle of muscle fiber or muscle fascicle, and epimysium covers the entire skeletal muscle. Okay. Next, see here, this is one skeletal muscle have been shown attached to the bone via the tendon. This is one muscle fiber, it is covered by the endomysium. Okay, and this is one fascicle. Fascicle is covered by the perimysium, and whole of the muscle fiber is covered by the epimysium. Okay, here perimysium covering have been shown, and this is ultrastructure of the muscle fiber. You can see alternate dark band and light band. Dark band are formed by the myosin filaments, and light bands are formed by the actin filaments. Okay, and so this middle part of this dark band here is the age zone, and this light staining zone, this is known as I band. Dark staining zone is the A band, and light staining band is the I band, isotropic band. Okay. Next, see here, so this is A band, dark staining band formed by the myosin filament, and middle of this A band there is one M line, and these are the light band or I band, isotropic band formed by the actin filaments. Okay, so middle of this A band there is one line, that is M line. Okay, and here is a zigzag line at the middle of the I band, that is known as Z line or Z disc. Okay, from one Z line to another Z line, this is the sarcomere, length of the sarcomere. Okay, and during, this is in resting phase, and during the contraction phase, this thick filament and thin filaments, thick filaments are myosin filaments, thin filaments are actin filaments. They will overlap with each other, and the length of the sarcomere will diminish. Okay, during contraction of the muscle. See the overlapping of the fibers. Thin filaments are gradually overlapping the thick filaments. Okay, and this age zone, this age zone is gradually decreasing in length. Okay, age zone is the non-overlapping portion near the middle of the A band. Okay. Next, so this is molecular structure of the myosin filament. They are formed by actin filaments are formed by the these monomers, actin monomers, and they have myosin binding sites. And this is troponin complex is formed by troponin C, which binds with the calcium, troponin T, and troponin I. Okay. And see here, these are the locations of the troponin complex, and they binds the tropomyosin. Okay, tropomyosin keeps the tropomyosin in place, and when the troponin C binds with the calcium, the tropomyosin is released, and these myosin binding sites are opened. Okay, next. And this is structure of the myosin molecule. They have heavy chains and light chains. Okay, these are the two heavy chains twinning with each other, forming the tail, and this is head and arm portion of the myosin molecules. And here are the actin binding site, another is ATP binding sites. ATP binding sites binds with the ATP and helps in the power stroke. Okay. Next, see here. Here are the location of the myosin chains. Okay, and these are the heads. Heads are projecting outward to bind with the actin filaments here. This is M line. These are the Z lines. Okay, and this is A band up to the myosin chain and I band. Next. So this follow chart shows the muscle contraction, process of the muscle contraction. You have read in physiology also, na, muscle contraction. Okay, so see here, first when the nerve stimulation comes, calcium ion is released in the sarcoplasm. Okay, it comes in your long question in physiology also. So calcium ion release in the sarcoplasm, there will be binding of calcium ions with troponin C, and it will release the tropomyosin from the actin filaments. Exposure of the myosin binding sites of the actin filaments or thin filaments, and there will be binding of myosin heads with the thin filament. After that, there will be attachment of ATP with the myosin heads and release of the myosin head from the actin or thin filament. Okay, so ATP is required to release the myosin head from the actin filament, that is during muscle relaxation. Okay, and there will be conversion of ATP to ADP and inorganic phosphate. There will be bending of the myosin head, weak binding of the myosin head with new actin site, and release of inorganic phosphate and ADP again. And this will lead to power stroke of the myosin head, and gradually muscle will contract, and gradually the actin and myosin filaments will overlap. Binding of myosin head with new actin site again, and there will be repetition of cycle until the whole muscle contracts. Okay. Next we are going to other terms, sarcoplasmic reticulum and T-tubules. Sarcoplasmic reticulum, see this net-like structure, blue colored one, this is forming the sarcoplasmic reticulum. These are longitudinal, these are the muscle fibers, myofibrils, and this is outer covering. The green colored covering is the sarcolemma, okay, outside covering. And you can see sarcolemma is invaginating to form the T-tubule. So the green colored tubule is the T-tubules. And on the two sides of the T-tubules, the sarcoplasmic reticulum forming two dilated portions, these are known as terminal cistern. And this T-tubule and two terminal cistern are together forming the triad, okay, in skeletal muscle. So the sarcoplasmic reticulum is longitudinally oriented, multiple tubules. They are reservoir of calcium ions, and dilated part is called the terminal cistern, here, blue dilated part. And T-tubules are transverse tubules, and they are invagination of the sarcolemma and transverse to the long axis of the muscle fibers. Next is triad. Two terminal cisterns with the central T-tubule form the triad, and that lies at the junction of dark band with the light band. Okay, so at the junction of A band and I band. Okay, so each of the sarcomere have two junctions of A band and I band. So each of the sarcomere in skeletal muscle has two triads. Okay, and the depolarization wave is carried deep inside the sarcoplasm. It stimulates the adjacent terminal cisterns for release of the calcium ions and thus initiate rapid muscle contraction through the calcium ions. Okay. From the sarcoplasm, the stimulus passes through the T tubules and that will stimulate the terminal cistern for release of the calcium ions. Okay, and rapid contraction of muscles. Next. So based on the diameter and color, so one type of classification we have seen for muscle, okay, skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle and smooth muscle. Another type of classification is according to the color of the muscle fiber, okay. Based on the diameter and color of the muscle fiber, then these skeletal muscle fibers are of three types: red fibers, white fibers and intermediate fibers. Based on the appearance of the fiber in the body and not according to the HE staining pattern. Okay. So red fibers, these are type 1 muscle fibers or slow oxidative fibers. Type 2A fibers, these are fast oxidative fibers, also called intermediate fibers. And white fibers are type 2B fibers and they are fast glycolytic fibers. Okay, so difference between red fibers and white fibers are important. Next, so these are varieties of skeletal muscle fiber. So red fibers, another it is type 1 or slow oxidative fiber. White fiber is type 2B or fast glycolytic fiber. Fiber diameter is small in red fiber, large in white fiber. Color in the living, red fiber, color is red and white fiber, color is the light pink. And myoglobin quantity is more in red fiber and it is less in the white fiber. Mitochondria are more in red fiber, less in the white fiber. Force of contraction is weak in red fiber and it is strong in the white fiber. Mode of contraction is slow twitch fiber, red fibers, and this is fast twitch fiber in white fiber. Fatigability, it is resistant to fatigue, red fibers, and easily fatigued in white fibers. Okay. Mode of energy generation is oxidative phosphorylation, and here is anaerobic glycolysis. Okay. In oxidative phosphorylation, slow release of energy occurs. So there is no fatigue or less fatigue. And white fibers, anaerobic glycolysis, there is immediate release and there is after that there is no release of energy. So there it is easily fatigued. Next is glycogen content is less in red fiber, it is more in white fiber. Examples are postural muscles and limb muscles. They are red fibers. And white fibers, precise rapid muscles like muscles of the eyeballs and fingers, they have white fibers. Blood supply is rich in red fibers and they are poor in the white fibers. Nerve supply, it is supplied by small nerve fibers and white fibers are supplied by large nerve fibers. Okay. Okay, next. So nerve supply of the skeletal muscle, alpha efferent fibers, these are arising from the multipolar anterior horn neurons of the spinal cord and they are myelinated fibers and large diameter fibers. They are the main motor fibers of the skeletal muscle. Okay. What is motor units? These terms are asked. Okay, a muscle spindle comes in your short note. So motor unit, what is motor units? It consists of one anterior horn neuron and all the muscle fibers supplied by it. And small motor units are present in precision acting muscles and large motor units are present in postural muscles. Okay. What is motor end plate? This is the junction between the muscle fiber and the nerve terminal. What is muscle spindle? It is sensory organs located in the muscle and supplied by myelinated gamma efferent fibers, and that arise from gamma motor neurons of the anterior horns of the spinal cord. Next, see, this is structure of the muscle spindle. It has extrafusal fibers outside. These are extrafusal fibers, and inside the sheath capsule there is the intrafusal fibers. Intrafusal fibers are nuclear chain fiber and nuclear bag fibers. Okay. See here, the extrafusal fibers are supplied by the alpha neuron, and the intrafusal supply, motor supply, is by the gamma neurons. Okay. And sensory fibers are of two types. This is annular fibers, type 1, annulospiral fibers. They are forming spirals around the central dilated part of the nuclear bag fibers and chain fiber. This is type 1A nerve fiber, and this is type 2 nerve fiber. Okay, floral spray-like nerve endings. So muscle fibers, extrafusal fibers are main muscle fibers supplied by alpha motor neurons, and muscle spindle is supplied by gamma motor neurons. And sensation is carried by type 1A fibers. These are annulospiral nerve endings, and from central area of nuclear chain and bag fibers, whereas there are type 2 fibers, floral spray endings, from the peripheral part of the bag fibers, and the sensory neurons get stimulated on stretching of the muscle fibers. Okay. Next is neuromuscular junction or motor end plate. Okay. So muscle spindle you prepare as a short note. Okay, practice is schematic diagram and practice as a short note. Muscle spindle. Next is neuromuscular junction or motor end plate. This is also an important short note. Okay, neuromuscular junction. It is the junctional complex of the axon terminal and muscle fiber. What is terminal button? At the terminal end. See, this is the terminal end of a action of the motor neuron. Here myelin sheath is absent and terminal part is branched and shows a swelling at the terminal end, and this swelled part is known as the terminal button. And where the terminal button is connected with the surface of the muscle, here it forms the motor end plate or neuromuscular junction. So terminal button, at the terminal end, the action loses its myelination and divide into many terminal branches, and each terminal branch expands at its end, forming the terminal button, and forms the junctional zone of muscle fiber at the sole plate, that is part of the sarcolemma, and it contains secretory vesicles containing acetylcholine and a number of mitochondria. You can see these are the secretory vesicles which are releasing the acetylcholine in the motor end plate, and here are some mitochondria are also present. Next is sole plate or motor end plate. It forms number of foldings that contain many receptors for acetylcholine. See, these are the foldings and they have receptors for the acetylcholine, which is released from the secretory vesicles of the terminal button. Next, there is synaptic cleft. It is the narrow gap 40 to 100 nanometer in diameter. So this gap between the terminal button and the motor end plate. This is motor end plate, terminal button. So this gap is the synaptic cleft. Next we are going to some clinical correlation regarding the muscle tissue. First is myasthenia gravis. Okay, very commonly given clinical aspect, myasthenia gravis. It is an autoimmune disease in that antibodies are found against the acetylcholine receptors. Okay, and these antibodies damage progressively acetylcholine receptors and muscle slowly becomes weak. Okay, there will be no proper contraction of the muscle because the receptors are binding with the antibodies, not with the acetylcholine. Next is neurotoxins. Neurotoxins in some snake venoms. Many snake venoms contain neurotoxin and that bind with the acetylcholine receptors, and it may cause paralysis of the respiratory muscle and death of the individual due to respiratory failure. Okay, so this is the main reason in case of death of neurotoxic snake bite. Okay, snake venoms are of two types, neurotoxic and hemotoxic. Hemotoxic, there will be lysis of the red blood cells. Okay, and in neurotoxic, there will be paralysis of the respiratory muscles, mainly the diaphragm, and there will be death of the individual. Next is stretch reflex. These are also known as myotatic reflex, elicited by blow upon a muscle tendon, and that in reflex induces the muscle contraction. Example is the biceps jerk. Biceps jerk you have elicited in physiology to tap over the bicep tendon with a hammer, and there will be reflex contraction of the elbow joint. Okay, so this is one example of the stretch reflex, and this stretch stimulus is carried by the sensory nerve endings, those annulospiral ending and the floral spray endings from the muscle spindle, and they will send the motor impulses via the gamma motor neuron and the alpha motor neuron and helps in contraction of the muscle. Okay. Next, so we have completed the skeletal muscle. Okay. Next, we are going to the cardiac muscle. So cardiac muscle fibers are located in the heart, and these have these following peculiarities. It has autorhythmicity. That means contract on their own without any stimulation. Hence, it can work as a pacemaker. And it shows cytoplasmic striations supplied by autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic system stimulates, parasympathetic inhibits its activity. Okay. Cardiac myocytes are connected with each other by densely staining cross bands called the intercalated discs. Okay, these are identification part of the cardiac muscles. Intercalated discs will be present and there will be branching of the muscle fibers. Okay, and cardiac muscle also shows striation, but it is involuntary in action, that is striated involuntary muscle. Cardiac muscle shows less number of myofibrils than the skeletal muscle,